Turn your video off for me, please. Oh, you're okay. Okay, that's all right. So good morning to everyone who's here. I'm just now going to share this. If you just excuse me for a moment, I will share this onto the page so that everyone who is logged in for our session can see this. Okay, we've got 4 people on already. So just give that a moment, Vara, and everyone who's with us, just please excuse me for the moment.
Sure.
I'm now sharing the video to our session 3. And I believe, Vara, that we are live.
Fantastic. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome. Sorry
Good morning.
about the technical issues.
Yes, we are a little late, and I can't rule out further technical issues. So we are coming to you live from our homes in, where are you, Vara?
Freshwater on the northern beaches of Sydney.
Okay, and I'm in Penshurst to the south of Sydney. We had a lot of fun getting this meeting happening technically, and I reckon we've spent at least 3 hours, and we're still slightly late, and we're still not quite right, but we're going ahead anyway. So welcome everyone, and I'm sure more people will join. Making the assumption that it's live on Facebook. So I'm Richard. I'm from the Travel Industry Hub. If you don't know what that is, we're a co-working meeting and event space based in Sydney. And we have recently been launching, and of course the timing for that hasn't been wonderful because of where we are with this COVID-19 and other issues. So yes, we're all at home. So is Vara, and I'll introduce you to Vara officially in a moment. So yes, our space, what we have there is desks, meeting rooms, and various office facilities for co-workers. And we also had an event space there, and we had plans to do live events. So we rent the place out for industry events and create a vibe going there. But we'd also have some of our own community events, intimate things that people can learn from. And what we're doing now is taking that online, given the circumstances, and bringing some of those forward, and also addressing some of the issues of the day. And obviously there's one that's taking over everything. So we had a really great tourism event in there, for example. It was about recovering from the bushfires and coronavirus at the time, because tourism has been doing it tough for far longer than the travel industry. And I'm guessing that most people logging in today are from the outbound travel industry, but there's all sorts around. So there's hospitality, there's aviation. So everyone's doing it tough now. And I wanted to talk to some people who can bring us some wisdom in these times. So first of all, thank you to Melissa Shembry, who's helped me come up with this idea, and also to Travel Daily and Travel Bulletin, who have been really supportive and are promoting these events for us. There's a couple more sessions coming up, and we're scheduling more later. So if you'd like our page on the Travel Industry Hub, that would be great, and you'll see more coming up. My theme for these events is, I might call it dodgy cameras, great people, because we're all going to be based at home. There might be some fun with cats jumping on laptops or children running in, or that BBC Korea moment. You remember where the guy's like this with his children? We might have a bit of that. But what we're trying to create, or what we were trying to create in real life, was a community. And we've got a lot of people who are with really goodwill, who want to help us and talk to people in how they can help themselves. So again, if you're just joining, this is the 3rd session of Survive and Revive. It's in association with CNN Recruitment and Travel Daily, Travel Bulletin. So I think we should have people live now. So let's get started. So one such person with an interest in using her skills to help people at this time is Vara Glover, who's looking at you now from her camera, patiently waiting to talk and waving. So what we're talking about today is finding resilience in the face of redundancy. We want to begin talking about this. This is not a session to solve everyone's issues. It's a starting point, and like many of these early sessions will be, and we can delve deeper based on the feedback that we get and the questions that we receive. So Vara, she does come from the travel tourism industry, but she's in recent years become a psychotherapist and hypnotherapist. Vara, it's probably a good time for me to shut up and let you talk. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Yes, I'd be delighted to. Hi and welcome everyone. Look, first of all, my absolute heartfelt acknowledgement to those of you that have tuned in today that have indeed been made redundant, have had to make people redundant, or know people who have been made redundant. It's certainly not easy. It's not an easy time for any of us in this moment. But what the aim of the game today in this session today, this little interview with Richard, is to just share with you some strategies, some takeaways that you can implement into your own world to try and help you tap into your inner resilience and to, really sort of find resilience in the face of redundancy, which is the topic at hand today. So look, a little bit about me. I have, yes, started up my own travel mind coach business. But prior to that, before studying psychotherapy, I actually was in the industry. I was in the industry for about 14, 15 years. I'm still in the industry today, and it's very close to my heart. So I started as a retail travel consultant. From there, I moved into managing teams. I moved to the UK, and then I worked for companies like Abercrombie and Kent and Cooney, where I opened up their London City offices. I also worked in cruise. So as I'm sort of running through all of these in my mind, I really do want to reach out to everybody in cruise, everybody in retail travel, just everybody across the industry, because having worked in various roles, I understand how difficult it can be at sometimes, and specifically now. When I moved back home to Australia, I actually stepped into a head of sales position for an educational travel company. And this is where I got to experience firsthand what redundancy felt like. Look, for me as an individual, it was really hard. It came left field. We had two budding entrepreneurs that bought the business. One took the MD role and one took my role as the head of sales, effectively making my role redundant. So, I ran through every possible scenario in my head of, making up all these crazy questions to ask myself. And had I have known what I know today, I feel like I would be a lot more better equipped and a lot more better able to cope mentally in a circumstance like that. From there, though, there was light for me. I very quickly joined a wonderful company, Club Med, where I was a BDM, which many on the call today might know me from, out on the road. I was a BDM and a national account manager for Club Med, and they were some of my happiest days. So, really, as I look back, we don't know what the future holds. We will never know what the future holds. For me, when I was feeling a bit down the dumps about everything, I ended up getting one of the best jobs of my career. And sometimes it's not always about the job and being successful in your role, but also the friends that you make. In particular, a shout out to Jodie, who just gave birth to a beautiful little Ivy Rose. And when I read that message come through to me just this week, I thought, that really puts things in perspective for me, that the friendships that we've made in the travel industry, they're the ones that are going to help us get through this difficult time. From Club Med, I was then head of sales at Wendy Wu Tours, which I enjoyed very much. And again, most people would probably know me from my time there. That was my last permanent role. And then I did a little contracting work as well at various places. But now here I am. I've studied psychotherapy and hypnosis. The reason why I did that was because I always worked in a sales position. High pressure, go, go, go. And I would often question why some of us have the resilience and the ability, if you like, to be able to cope under stress and pressure, and others of us just seem to crumble and let our mind really take hold. So I enrolled in the of Applied Psychology, and I've got some fantastic learnings that I would love to share with you today. That's just a little bit about me and my background. I hope that you find this session interesting and informative, and you can certainly take away some strategies. That's the main thing I'm looking to share.
Thank you. Thank you. So first things first, as we've mentioned, there's people doing things really tough currently. There's people losing their jobs by the thousand, and it's not just recently. There's been tourism, there's mar and par operators who are struggling, and then of course, as we know, within you and I know, within travel, we've got agents, sales staff, reservations, but there's also people who are on the periphery of those, like graphic designers or marketing execs, photographers, those type of people that are maybe unseen. There's hotel staff, cruise staff, etc. My own wife even wants me to go to Centrelink at the moment. So can I start by looking at our own situation and maybe my own? But in the past, I've been made redundant, and my own tendency in those moments is to withdraw into myself and shut the world out, perhaps, and then I start asking myself questions like, negative questions like, who's going to want to employ me, and what are my strengths? So I just wanted to ask you about that. That's going to be a common theme with a lot of people, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we all do it. So I'm sorry to hear that you were also made redundant. It seems that you can empathise with a lot of people potentially listening on this call today. Look, the main thing to understand is how the mind works. So let me start there, and then I'll go on to a few strategies. So to begin with, we've got two different parts of our brain that really control thought. And the first part is the frontal lobe, so the intelligent part of our mind, if you like, which throws up all those questions that you were just saying. So what if no one employs me again? What if I'm not good enough? It throws up but questions as well, but I don't have the skills to apply for jobs like X, Y, and Z. And we start to listen to those thoughts. Now, those thoughts aren't really all that useful to us, despite them coming from the intelligent part of the brain. They activate in the limbic system, which is our intelligent part of the brain, thoughts that spiral. And so if you can imagine, you can really get yourself into quite a state if you listen to all those thoughts. Those thoughts might be something like, I've just been made redundant. How am I going to tell my family? What are people going to think of me? How am I going to get another job? What if I'm not employable? What if I can't find another job that pays me the same? And the spiral sort of continues, and then we can, really becoming overwhelmed by this sort of thought. So knowing that we have two different parts of our brain, what we need to do is we need to learn how to silence the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that actually don't serve us well, that are not helping us to be the best version of self. Now, we're actually run by our limbic cortex, which is our emotional part of the brain. So emotion will always override logic, similar to why we fall in love, for example. So what we need to do is we need to silence the intelligent part of the mind and let the emotional mind lead us and create new patterns of thoughts that do serve us well. So we can do this a number of ways to silence the mind. Yes, sure, hypnosis works. Another thing that works to silence the mind is meditation, sometimes listening to music as well, not horrible, sad music, but something a little bit more upbeat and uplifting. Um, and potentially reading or distracting the mind in some sort of way. So the best way for me to describe a neurological pathway of thought is if you can imagine a mountain, and on top of that mountain, say you've got snow on the top, and it's summer or spring and that snow is melting, where's that water going to run down to get to the ocean at the bottom? Now, the question is, the answer rather, is that it's actually going to run down the path of least resistance. So pathways of thought are formed in our mind, and they normally serve us well, but sometimes they hold us back from being the best version of self. And this is when we need to create new thoughts that do serve us well. And the interesting thing about the mind, it's quite fascinating actually, is that you can actually create new pathways of thought for yourself. We all have the ability to do this because we all have the ability to learn. So what we can in effect do is change that pattern of thought that's running down, spiraling, not serving us well. We can change that by looking at other perspectives and other ideas. You can speak to a therapist if you've got one locally. You can speak to a friend or family member and just get lots of different opinions. But it's about catching yourself and pulling yourself up in that moment of time and redirecting the thought. So, for example, a thought might be, oh God, I've lost my job. How am I going to tell my family? Well, we're going to tell our families. We're going to get through it together. We can say things like, rather than I'm worried about losing my house or having to, not being able to pay the mortgage, could this not be a good opportunity for you to potentially move to a new house? Have you always wanted a smaller garden with something less maintenance, or maybe move closer to the in-laws for some support, or maybe further away from the in-laws? So there are always other perspectives of looking at these sort of scenarios. For example, this also might be the perfect opportunity for you to start something that you've always wanted to do, to go for a promotion, to go for the job that pays more money, to go for the job that pays less money, but actually offers you a better work-life balance. There's a number of different things that you can ask yourself in terms of other perspectives or other ideas.
Cool. The 68-second rule we've discussed. You want to tell a bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So look, there are different strategies that you can absolutely use. One is the 68-second rule that Rich and I have discussed in the past. It talks about how you can rewire your own mind within 68 seconds. Don't ask me why it's 68 seconds. It's just a phenomena. But we have 68 seconds to rewire our own minds when we catch a thought. So say you wake up in the morning and you stub your toe. It's very possible that you could let that affect your day in a really negative way. You then go to make cereal and find yourself spilling, cereal on your, freshly ironed top or shirt. You then end up just missing the bus and your day just seems to go from bad to worse. Now, if you catch the thought in that moment in time, you don't have to let it affect you as such. So what you can do is you catch a thought, I've stubbed my toe, but rather than letting it affect you negatively, accept that it just is what it is. You can't do anything about it. You don't have control of external influences. All you have control over is your internal response, if you like, to that circumstance. So yeah, it hurts, but thank God you didn't break your toe. And then go on with your day looking at things from a different perspective. You could look outside and be distracted by a beautiful day. Maybe walk through your lounge room and see a photograph of you and some friends, or you on your wedding day, and that might bring you some joy and happiness, and move forward from there. It's just about being able to switch that thought from naturally spiraling to serving you well.
Okay, I won't ask you the difficult questions I did on the phone about what happens if you don't within 68 seconds, or if I'm spending 68 seconds hopping around feeling that toe, but never mind.
You can, it doesn't matter. Look, if you don't do it within 68 seconds, it's still going to work for you. It's
Most of those 68 seconds will be swearing, I'm sure. But anyway, yeah, that's.
I guess the idea is, why would you spend a couple of hours,
Yeah,
moping
moping about.
Yeah.
Sure. And then before we move on, any other techniques that people can look up or learn about that you had in mind?
Yeah, so there's the mind rehearsal technique as well. That's simply basically nutting out your goal and your vision. So writing your new story. So that coincides very well with recognizing the here and the now. So one thing I will ask everybody listening to this is, do you control your thought, or does your thought control you? And the answer to that is actually you control your own thought. So given that you have the power to do that, no external influence, anything, it doesn't matter if it's coronavirus, if it's being made redundant, if it's a rainy day, if it's somebody speaking badly to you, or telling you off, or whatever it might be, you can't change external influences. All you can change is your internal state of mind and the way that you respond. And that's powerful, because if you find yourself feeling disheartened or unworthy or worthless, as some people can potentially be feeling around this time, it's you allowing yourself to be influenced by external factors, because the truth is, you're not worthless at all. You are far more than your job. You are far more than the title on your business card, or the salary that you bring home to your family. Your friends, your family are going to love you no matter what the title on your business card is, or whether you've got a job or don't have a job, or how much money you earn. So it's just really grabbing hold of that perspective, and then recognizing that this is a moment in time, and there's always the before, there's always the during, and there's always the after. And if you can think back, maybe not even so long ago, there was a time that you were a student. There was a time that you were a young adult traveling around the world, maybe. Books. That's when we recognize that everything has a time and a place. And, maybe we can look at it in such a way that we were grateful for the role that we had. We were grateful to work in an industry that gave us the opportunity to travel, to be able to see the world, to be able to meet incredible people. These are all fantastic takeaways. And okay, sure, a piece of that has been taken away, but that's no different to, graduating high school, or, going through relationship breakups and then finding a new relationship. It's just all part of a moment in time. And that part has passed now, and there's going to be a new future. And what you can start to do with mind rehearsal is start to actually write that out, what you want that to look like for yourself. And the more detailed, the better. It might start with something like, in the morning when I wake up, I, envision my future to look like X, Y, and Z.
Just before or after stubbing your toe on the bed?
The night before.
Okay. Right. Okay.
Yeah. Look, these sorts of things definitely help, and they definitely work and help us keep level-headed and keep ourselves in perspective.
Sure. Just want to ask a question about, just to dig a bit deeper. So there are going to be people who have been in a role for a very, very long time, and maybe, Melissa spoke yesterday about CVs and LinkedIn and those sorts of things. But those ones that have been, I heard a story. There's people in inbound tourism have been working for 20 years for the same company, and suddenly this is a huge shock to them, more so than perhaps someone who's been at a company a few years or is a bit younger. Now, you've talked about you're more than your job, you're more than the title on your card, but is there any specific words for those types of people who maybe are feeling this a little harder at this time?
Yeah, definitely. Look, my heart, definitely goes out to those people that are struggling at this moment in time. But as I mentioned before, I would just encourage you to think back for a time in your life where there was the beginning, the middle, and the end, and that chapter finished. So, for example, school would be a perfect one of those. Um, all of us, it doesn't matter if you were in your job for 20 years or less, you were a student at some point in your time, in your life. So let's say you started in kindergarten and went right through to year 12. That's a long time to be a student for. And at that moment in time, it would have been quite daunting, was it not? To, you know, put yourself out there into the big wide world to get a job, to have responsibilities, to move into adult life. But you did it, did you not? No matter how daunting or scary it was, or anything like that. The truth is that we all have inner resilience built into our DNA, and we can all tap into this whenever we like. And I know this because most of us are able to walk. So the fact that you're simply able to walk means that you have resilience that you can tap into whenever you want. Now, I mean this in the sense of when you were a little child learning to walk, you would have fallen over multiple times, dusted your little knees off, and got back up again. So, keeping that in mind, you can get through, you can tap into that resilience, just appreciating and acknowledging that this is just a moment in time. So you spent, 12 years being a student. It was daunting to go out into the real world, but you did it. Maybe you spent, 10 years in a relationship that was wonderful at that moment in time, but didn't work out in the end. And you met somebody new or someone different, or you recognized different priorities in your life and found true happiness. So that it doesn't matter necessarily how long the moment of time is. It's just recognizing that, okay, I've been in this job for the last 20 years or so, but this is over now, this little chapter, and it gives me an opportunity now to start writing something different in my own personal storybook, entering a new chapter, if you like.
Who should we talk to? So if someone's feeling that talking is beneficial, where would they go to? Is that within? Maybe that's not always within the family. Um, what's your suggestions on how to? Should you be out there speaking to as many people as you can? Should you be talking to a specialist or that type of thing, depending on what your needs are? What's your suggestions on networking and being out there in the community?
Yeah, good question, Rich. Look, everybody's individual and everybody's different. So some people are happy just to talk to some friends, talk to some family members, and I would encourage definitely starting with that. It's a great place to start because you can get other perspectives and other ideas. If you find yourself talking to a friend that's, that's taking you down the spiral of, you know, oh, I totally can empathize with you. This is so bad, and we're all with, you know, maybe don't talk to that friend so much because they're not going to help so much. But look, in all seriousness, look, this can become, from a mental health perspective, very difficult for a lot of people. You know, people can really suffer anxiety from this. Potentially even, even worse than that. It can really go into depression, if you like. So if you find yourself, really feeling just uncomfortable with the uncertainty, I would recommend that you speak to a professional. I'm a strategic psychotherapist and a clinical hypnotherapist. There are people out there that are psychologists, that are counsellors. Some people like alternative treatments, like energy healing type things, which are also wonderful. Meditation and clearing the mind is also another way that can definitely help. I'm open to helping people during this. Absolutely. I'm doing a lot of work from home at the moment. So if you feel like you need to or you want to, reach out to me personally as an individual. I'll give you my contact details at the end of this call. But really do know that there are people out there to help you stay level-headed when it comes to just addressing that feeling of overwhelm, because it is natural, it is normal. There's nothing to be worried or concerned or afraid about in terms of talking to people about these sorts of issues. There's a lot of people going through exactly what you're going through, but spiraling and letting your mind spiral is no way of helping yourself. You must, and I emphasize must, in this moment in time, catch your thought when it is not serving you well and redirect it. You have control over that. And if you find that you can't do that and you struggle with that, please seek professional help.
Thank you. I know that's not easy to go into in depth, and I want to bring it back to other sessions that you do, because I know that you speak to corporate events as well as to individuals. So if you don't mind, I'm going to read out some of the things that you do. I've got here the power of being a mentor, being an open, honest and supportive manager, coping with ambiguity and change, influencing your team's neurological pathways of thought, and then a series of managing overwhelming situations, managing stress, anger, anxiety and pressure. So does that sum up what you offer, or is that just a snippet really? And I also want to ask you if we can continue doing this, and if there is demand, and we'll ask at the end for any questions. And of course, if you have questions, please send them through to questions@thetravelindustryhub.com. But based on those, is that any of those sessions jump out at you as something that we should be looking at next?
Absolutely. Look, I'd be delighted to do a session again, another live session on.
Not paying you, by the way, just so you know.
That's fine. All these sessions are absolutely for free. Look, in terms of me, I'm just trying to, support an industry that's given me so much. Really, yeah, it's tough for everybody out there, and any of my learnings that I can share, even if it benefits just one person, that's a good thing. The next session I could probably do would be something around stress. I think managing stress.
I want some upbeat ones as well, Vara. It's not, it's not all. We mustn't be doom and gloom about this.
Yeah, we can do something else. We can do
hypnotize us maybe, or I've never tried that. Could you hypnotize us? Perhaps I've never tried that before.
not like this.
Okay.
Not in this way. Look into my eyes. Look into my eyes.
Okay.
It's not like that at all. I promise you. Hypnosis is actually about redirecting thought patterns. So if you like everything that I told you today, a strategy is to try and redirect thought patterns yourself. But if you find that you can't do that yourself, all hypnosis does is it takes you into a really nice, calm, relaxed zone where the brain waves actually change. So rather than the beta brain waves, which are always on, telling us what if, but, we actually silence that, and it goes into a more relaxed brainwave. And at that moment in time, the brain is actually receptive to other perspectives and other ideas. So as a hypnotherapist, what we're able to do is actually give ideas and suggestion to help you or that individual person create a new pathway of thought that actually serves them well, rather than holding them back. So it's just more of a strategy, really.
Okay. So coming to a conclusion, where do people find out more about you? If they want to read more about what you've done or written, where would they go? You have a website, right?
Yes, I do. So I've got a website. Jump online. It's just mind-coach.com.au. I do have a tab there, which is the travel industry mind coach, which sort of talks about what I do in the corporate world in terms of management psychology, sales psychology. I share a lot of psychotherapy questioning techniques to help managers get the best out of their people, or indeed people get the best out of themselves. If you want to read, I've written some blogs that are quite interesting, I think, for this sort of topic. There's a blog there. You can call me 0412 597 741, or read my book. I've written a book that's also available on my website.
Didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
We never covered that when we talked before.
Yeah, I wrote a book about the mind and how it works.
I would have introduced you as eminent author, Vara Glover.
I keep that one under wraps.
Right.
And what else is there? Oh, you can email me, of course. info@mind-coach.com.au.
Cool. Thank you. Really, seriously, thank you so much for your time. I also want to just send some thanks to Travel Daily and Travel Bulletin for supporting what we're doing, and also to Melissa Shembri, who's been integral in starting this up with us. There's more sessions coming. They'll be on our website. Just go to the travelindustryhub.com to find out more. The next one will be me chatting, hopefully, if we can get the tech working. It will be me chatting to Walter Nand about men's mental health, not any other type of health. I want to make that clear right now. It's not bodily functions, it's mental health. So Vara, say goodbye, Vara.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you found the session informative today. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other.
Oh, that's from a line from a TV program, isn't it?
Maybe it is.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. We'll see you again. Thanks, everyone. Bye.